We're talking now about, once again, building that creativity, putting that creativity to work. But now, what are some of the reasons why we don't put our creativity to work? What are some of the reasons why we don't embrace our creativity?
When adversity came, I could have fell apart, but I chose instead to follow my heart. When adversity comes, I will never run, I will adjust, adapt, and overcome. Vision.
Woo! What's going on, everyone? Welcome to your one-stop shop for everything empowerment. I am your host, Tariq Williams. Welcome back to the podcast to get the energy, to get the insight, to get what it is you need to move forward and grow. Let's get right to it. So, the title, How to Unleash That Creativity. Unlocking that inner genius. So let's talk about that. Let's start with number one. Let's set the tone the way that it's supposed to be set. Because when we're talking about creativity, I feel like we immediately go to this abstract sense of thought, right? But starting with that unlocking that genius piece, you got to embrace who you are. No one is going to tell you who you are. You are your own person. Who's the genius of you? You. So the fact is, the problem that you don't believe that you're a genius of yourself, the fact that you don't believe in your inner genius is part of the problem here. Because once you're able to embrace that person who you are, that genius you got in you, then it's like, all right, maybe I can just be myself on a daily basis and hold on to that creativity. But then you start telling yourself, well, I'm just like anybody else. I put my pants on one leg at a time just like anyone else. But I mean, sure, you put on your pants one leg at a time just like anybody else, but the fact is, they're your pants, right? They're your pants. And so you gotta learn more about you. You gotta embrace, unlock that inner genius in you, recognize that you are that, so then you can start getting into that creativity, embracing whatever it is you create and whatever it is you do. Because your creativity is going to look different than the person sitting next to you creativity. Because it's y'all creativity. It's different. You got to embrace that person within you, that genius within you, to tap into those inner workings of your mind. And now you're saying that, well, I have a few people who believe in what I'm doing and they're telling me to be creative in my own right. And that's great. I'm all about surrounding yourself with great people and people who want to embrace and want you to tap into that creativity. But the fact is, empathy can only go so far. Okay? The person who spends the most time with you is you. And so embrace that inner genius within your mindset so you can start unlocking that creativity. Recognize that it's there because right now you might not. So recognize that it's there so we can push through, move forward, and now we set the tone, and now we can continue moving forward. So now that we've set the tone, well, we got to grow, right? And so part of this creativity piece is working on how to figure out how to build it, because we don't do the stagnant thing here. We don't do the incomplete thing here. If you're into incomplete and stagnant, I'm sorry, but to let you know that you're at the wrong place. So what it is, this next side is the curiosity, right? Be curious. Ask the questions. When you talk to other people or what have you, you ask different questions when they're warranted and maybe even when they're not warranted. Because we already know what's happening when we don't ask the question, right? We're trying to gain more knowledge in the process. Now, as we gain more knowledge, we're not changing who we are as a person. We're not changing. We already got that inner genius within us. Okay? So what we're doing here is learning more information, asking questions when they're warranted and when they're not, to learn more, to then evolve our creativity, right? Evolve it and put it into work. And then once you start putting into work, challenge it. Challenge the curiosity, challenge the questions. Because as we continue to challenge and have different conversations or debates with yourself or whatever it is you're doing, it has no choice but to evolve. It has no choice but to grow and build that growth mindset that we talk about on the channel so often. But you got to challenge it, because once again, the stagnant thing, that's somewhere else. That's not here. Now, as we start building that growth mindset, that curiosity, we're recognizing that we have that genius within us. We're talking now about, once again, building that creativity, putting that creativity to work. But now, what are some of the reasons why we don't put our creativity to work? What are some of the reasons why we don't embrace our creativity? Number 3, the problem that's holding you back, that's hindering your creativity, is your self-doubt. And that's got to get out. That's got to get out of here. Listen, that self-doubt thing, we got to find ways to remove that. What's fueling your self-doubt? Well, maybe that's a podcast. That's an episode for another one. I can't talk clearly. That's probably for another episode. There we go. English. Now, what that self-doubt does, though, is that once it gets into your mind and it fixates on the fact that telling yourself you're not creative, you're not as good as anyone else around you, you're not able to put more money in your bank account because that's left for the 1%, right? You're not able to start your own podcast because, well, you didn't do it before and nobody cares about what you want to say. You can't, that self-doubt can be so damaging, and it can just continue to build and build and build. But once again, it's your vision, it's your dream, it's yours, it's your genius. So you got to put it into work. If you don't put it to work and it's just laying there, just stagnant, you're not going to ever get to where you want to be. But recognize that it's out there for you because you had the thought, you had the vision to make it happen. All you got to do is start putting in the effort. But now when you don't put in the effort, you're delivering power to that self-doubt. Now, we're going to go over a few different individuals here in just a moment that really speaks on what it truly means to unleash that creativity in more ways than one. But the last thing I want us to understand is that this journey is continuous, okay? This journey is continuous because we continue to grow and put things into work. So finally, it's about practice.
Not the game. We're talking about
practice,
man.
Yeah. Allen Iverson, yeah, bro. We're talking about practice.
Practice?
We're talking about practice.
We're talking about practice, man.
Practice. Okay. So let me explain. Let me paint a picture here for a second. So Chris Bumstead, individual, he's been Mr. Olympia quite a few times now. So bodybuilder, all that. So even though he's been Mr. Olympia several times, continues to be consistent in the gym, right? Now, even though his shoulders look great, does he continue lifting shoulders? Of course he does. Even though his arms look great, does he continue lifting arms? Absolutely. Because the fact is, if you want to grow in any type of fashion, one, you got to continue to sustain what you already got. And two, you got to continue putting in that work to maintain and then grow it. If you can't sustain what you already got, then what you already got isn't going to grow, it's going to decline. And so we're not falling off the cliff here. So when it comes to that practice piece, that's the thing. We think that creativity is one of those things that will just come to us all the time and whenever we want. And don't get me wrong, individuals, we all have our different gifts and different strengths that we're good at. But strengths. And so we continue to work on that to get better and better every single day. And if that's lifting weights or that's creativity. Now, another example of an individual who has manifested and worked through his creativity, Lin-Manuel Miranda. An individual who was told in several different ways that some of the creativity that he was putting together in playwrights and screen production, for example, in The Heights and in Hamilton, are things that have never been done before. So just because something has never been done before, sometimes we think that it's not supposed to be. But that's exactly why it should be. That's exactly why it should be. And so if the first doesn't exist, it's got to be someone, right? Now, putting all that creativity and pieces together, it takes practice. When it comes to Lin-Manuel Miranda, he didn't just wake up one day and write Hamilton or just write In the Heights. He had to progress as a writer in his own right to then be better in his creativity. Now, it takes studying. It takes that creativity piece. We already talked about the curiosity a little bit ago. Now, when we talk about these individuals' journeys, you truly have to find a way, once again, as we set the tone, to talk about that inner genius piece. Now, in my own story, in my own right, when I became blind, I didn't know anything about blindness. Nothing. But eventually I got to a place where I was just like, at the end of the day, I'm me. And me is enough. So I got to find a way to figure this out. Was it difficult? It wasn't easy, because when you're used to living your life one way and then everything changes, it changes you. You start to evolve a bit as a person. Now, I had to, once again, embrace that inner genius of mine that I didn't think existed. I had to then ask questions, meet other blind people, ask them questions about what it means to be a blind person. Did I have self-doubt? Every day. But I knew that there was more out there for me, just like I know that there's more out there for you. So take the time, unlock that inner genius, because it's there. So then unleash that creativity. Be curious about what it is you got going on. Be curious to learn more and more and take the steps to be a lifelong learner. And always put it into practice. Yep. Talking about practice. And ultimately, you will unleash that creativity, not just once, not just twice, but consistently on a daily basis. Sustainability, keep moving forward. Thank you all for listening. And not only I am Vision of Hope, but we are Vision of Hope.
When adversity came, I could have fell apart, but I chose instead to follow my heart. When adversity comes, I will never run. I will adjust, adapt, and overcome. Vision.